Great having you here tonight to discuss your new book, which I had read weeks ago now. Whenever you released it, I was like right on this.
Yeah.
Uh, so my big question is, why now? Why write an autobiography at this age? You probably have another 70 years on this earth. Of course, you could have sequels to this.
Well, here's the deal. I started to write this book many, many years ago. This book, I just wanted to write a family history for my children. You know, I have 4 daughters, and I wanted them to know where the DeVittos came from. You know, so that's why it starts in Italy with my grandparents coming over. I was fortunate enough to have my father and mother live long lives. My father passed away when he was 91 years old, my mother 89 years old. So I got to interview them. I still have the cassette tapes of me interviewing them. And my aunts, a couple of my aunts I interviewed. So the whole family thing. But, you know, you get outside and meet people who are curious like yourself. And you would say to me, tell me a story about what it's like to be on the road. And I would say something, and then somebody would say, you know, you should write a book with this stuff. So it's like, okay. But when I started to write that part of it was when me and Billy had the falling out. So I was the angry old man at the time. So some of the things I was writing were like, not nice. They weren't nice things. You know, I didn't want to have anything to do with the music anymore. I wouldn't listen to it on the radio. It wasn't until the Lords of 52nd Street with Richie Canada, Russell Javers, and the late Doug Stegmeyer, we were inducted into the Long Island Music Hall of Fame, right? I didn't want to go. They talked me into going. As a matter of fact, we were supposed to play one song at the event, and I didn't even go to sound check. I sent somebody else to do the sound check. I didn't have anything to do with the music, you know? So we get there, we play the song, we get our awards, we play the song, and the crowd reaction was so great that we played 5 songs, you know? After it was done, me and Richie and Russell sat down and said, why don't we do this for real? You know, put the band together, get the other guys to do it. And, you know, a lot of cover bands and tribute bands are making a lot of money on the parts that we created. We're the guys.
How weird is that others are playing the music you created, and perfect timing to like, hey, these are the guys. You guys did this.
So as I was learning the songs, relearning them, I started to fall in love with them again, because all I could think about was how much fun we had in the studio and how great it was to travel the world with these songs and how many millions of people we made happy with these songs. So I had the songs back. I'm playing with Richie and Russell. The only thing I don't have now is the guy that I used to look at every night. And he used to look at me. We'd exchange these views. And just by the way we look at each other, we could tell how the night was going. Is it going to be tough for him? Is it going to be tough for me? Is the crowd reaction great? You know, I'll never forget his face in the Soviet Union the first night we played. There was no reaction.
I remember that well. Oh, yeah.
He looked at me at the piano. He just bent down like this and he went, we're dead.
I remember him saying, I am nervous. I did the live radio broadcast. I was like, how bad could it be over there? Wait a minute.
Right. So that was the only part that was missing in my life. So I thought, I'm going to reach out to him. I'm going to say, and I told him, I wrote, the drum piano feud has to be over. It's been going on too long. I was really disappointed in the way it ended. And he wrote me back immediately and said, yeah, I was disappointed too with the way it ended. And I said, let's meet for something to eat, you know? And it turned out to be a great meeting. We just sat and talked for an hour and a half about, you know, who's sick, who's passed away that we know that has worked with us. And what our families are like now. Nothing about the past, everything about what it's like now. And it turns out that our lives still ran parallel while we weren't together for 15 years, weren't talking to each other for 15 years. He had 2 children. He got remarried again, had 2 children.
Yeah.
So I think their ages are like maybe 5 and 2 or something like that. I got married again. I have one that's only 3 years old. You know, so
it's amazing. Same generation, and you work together for so long, and you're doing the same thing in your absence.
Yeah, it's unreal. unreal, you know? I mean, it was weird.
It's a
But
whole new life. It really is. I'm sure it is. I mean, you know,
yeah,
it seems like you're rejuvenated, and not only you're parallel with the Lords of 52nd Street, the
right,
tribute band. Now, you're not really a tribute band. You're the architects of this music,
right.
and also the Slim Kings, where you're doing
Yes.
original music. So you're quite busy these days.
Well, yeah. Well, the pandemic has kind of slowed things down, but recently we've been doing these drive-in gigs with the Lords. We're going to do a video broadcast, I guess, with the Slim Kings. We haven't played in a while, but it's going to be fun to do it, you know, to get together with these guys again. You know, I just love to play. I still love it. I loved it when I was young, and I still love it as much now, you know.
It's great in the book. You really chronicle those very early years, all those influences, and you have a very sharp memory. How did that all come? Did another somebody help you along the way, just getting those memories onto paper? It's just
No.
amazing. You all these names from your childhood and all the bands you were in. I think
Yeah.
that's incredible.
Well, you know, the childhood part, uh, I had this one girlfriend. Her name was Regina. She's in the book. We've actually, after 48 years, have reconnected again. Another one that I reconnected with, and you know, so those memories I'll never forget. She was my first girlfriend. You never forget the first love, you know. So that I'll never forget. The older bands were always a stepping stone and a learning experience for me. So I don't forget them. You know, I was always the new guy in the band. I was the youngest and probably the worst one in the band. So I learned from each one of them. And some of the experiences were unbelievable. You know, this is my road. What took me from letter A to letter to playing with one of the most famous single artists in the world. These are the roads that I took. That's what the book is about. A lot of guys write books about, like, you see documentaries like 12 Feet from Stardom, or you see the Wrecking Crew, and it's like, yeah, we recorded this song and it became a smash hit, and we recorded this song and it became a smash hit. This book is about, like, whoa, hang on, this is not American Idol, you know.
Right, exactly. Yeah,
You
you
know,
paid dues, like
yes.
seriously paid dues.
Yes, Billy Joel was not one of those kids that went to his sister's wedding and the bride asked the band, the wedding band, if he could sing with them because he sings good. You know, that's what the American Idol people were like. You know, it's like this was paying dues, and you know, I actually put myself in Billy's shoes for this book to see why he did what he did, the things he did over the years. Now, I realized Billy has so many responsibilities. I mean, he's got to write a new album, right? His name is on the marquee, first of all, when we play live. It's
Yeah,
not
you were talking
my
about
name.
the pressure. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
of having to do that.
has to write a new album with 14 songs. 4 of those songs have to be top 40 hits, right? Plays piano, sings, and he's doing all this, wearing all these different hats while he's dealing with a family at home. He's dealing with that. And I'm the drummer that plays along with him, and I'm complaining because I want to go out on the tour in April and he wants to go out in May. You know, he says, I need another month of rest. Why? Let's go, you know. So I put myself in his shoes and I saw why he did. This man has had a career that has gone over so many decades, and there's a reason that he did. It's hard to stay alive. You have to stay current. You have to, and you do that by changing personnel sometimes, you know. So
Why was it in the early days more pressure on an artist like Billy to perform, to get top 40 hits, to churn those out rather than, say, of any other performers? Was that just an unsaid thing, or was that something in the contract that just said, hey, you got to have hit singles out here. We need at least 3 or 4 per album?
no, I think the key to making those hit singles was, well, Phil Ramone was asked at one time, what made Billy Joel the phenomenon that he turned out to be? And Phil said he wrote great songs and his band came up with great arrangements. But I think it was Phil Ramone who honed those songs into top 40 hits. You know, he really, we called him Uncle Phil. He was, let's call him the fifth Beatle. You know, that's what he was to us. And he told us, you know, I in the book, I talk about the argument I had over my life.
Yeah.
When, you know, I didn't want to.
I didn't know that. That's a great tidbit.
Yeah. And he slammed the thing on the table and said, you know, what have you been in this business for 20 minutes? You're going to tell me what you're not going to do? It's like, wow. Yeah. That moment of like looking at greatness and learning from greatness and not even know that you're learning something so powerful right now, you know?
Yeah. Phil Ramone also has a good book out that he wrote years ago on records and explains how the process of The Stranger came together.
Right.
What a genius. And he worked with legends too. And so have you. Beyond Billy Joel, you worked with E.B. Snow, Karen Carpenter. I mean, what an array of talent that you've
it was a lot of fun. A lot of fun. It's fun now too, going in the studio sometimes with these young artists that aren't necessarily famous. They just got a record deal or something like that. But it's different because I used to go in with the whole band. Like when we did Karen Carpenter, it was myself, Russell, Doug Stegmeyer was in it, David Brown was involved on it. But now it's like I get a phone call and like this guy is on Curb Records, let's say. And I walk in there and he's got 14 songs that are already done. He just did them with a drum machine and now he wants live drums on them. You know, so it's that kind of thing. It's very rare. Me and Richie Canada just did a thing with this guy named Jimmy Hook. He's a songwriter out of Ohio, and he wanted the band to be in the room. They had to build this whole thing around his piano so the drums wouldn't leak into his microphone. He sang while he played, just like Billy did in the early days. We all played together, me, the bass, and the piano. It was great. It was fun doing that. I like doing that best.
Yeah. You know? Well, it shows in the Billy Joel records that you had worked on. It's just phenomenal. But you were a very big part being the architect of all the songs, album tracks, and singles. And I like how in the book you go through many tracks about how things had come together. Most interesting one is Keeping the Faith, about how very technical stuff with the drums and how you go into that, how the fills happen, how the production comes together. It's very interesting, but it's not so technical that normal reader would be like, oh, I don't get any of this stuff.
Right. Well, I'm not technical. You know, I never took a lesson. Maybe one from somebody when I told the guy when he's going to teach me how to play like Ringo, and he said Ringo stinks, you know, and it was like, that's the end. That's the end. Yeah, I had to learn myself, you know.
You're like, hey, I don't see you playing to all these screaming girls. What's up here?
Exactly. You know, if anybody tells you they got into music to make money or something like that and not to meet girls, they're lying. It's all about girls.
And a lot of good stories in this book that come along with it. There are high times, the great times and the low times, typical rock and roll stories, but they're fun. It's kind of like Almost Famous in a way from that movie, but you got some of your own good stories there. Right.
Well, basically the story is about, it's actually a story about two friends that parted. It's a story about how these immigrants came over, and 2 generations later, that one of the offspring plays with one of the most famous single artists in the world. It's my story about the roads I took to be standing here right now, talking to you on this video, on this internet. These are the roads I took. Some of them were very dark, as you read in the book. Some of them were very dark.
Yeah.
I was fortunate enough to get off those roads. Like Doug Stegmeyer did not. He got on a dark road and he did not get off that road, and he ended up ending his life. You know, so
beautiful chapter you did on him. It was really, really, I remember very well seeing you guys perform together. So yeah, he was just incredible. But you see that in this business, people who struggle and they're not getting the help that they need. So I know you were involved with Rockers for Recovery with Ricky Bird.
Rockers for Recovery, yeah. Now we do a thing called Clean Getaway.
Clean Getaway. Ricky Bird, we got to give him the credit there. I met you and Ricky. I met you and Ricky about 15 years ago because I was writing about Camp Jam. uh, met in Doraville, Georgia, where you spent some time here. So you've got some good stories
Yes.
about Doraville. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah. Those were the experiences. I mean, those were, you know, you don't think of it as like you're learning right now. You are in the learning process. You don't think about it when it's happening, but I look back and it's like, wow, I learned so much. The Atlanta Rhythm section, they were playing, showing us how to do it, you know?
oh, just incredible talent there.
Yeah.
Wow. And what was the process like though, when you would say, okay, we're going to do a project? Billy Joel how many, was he do records every year? Because 77, 78, 79, 1980, those years, I mean, one record after another. Was that part of a contract? Did he have to do so much work in a short amount of time?
Yeah, I think he had a record a year, one album a year he signed for. Yeah. So now that he hasn't done any records, he owes Columbia a lot. But you know, I mean, he can't never break away from that contract because he still hasn't fulfilled it, you know, by stopping writing, you know. So, but yeah, the process was one record a year, and it was funny because I did a drum camp in Nashville, and it was with this my dear friend Rich Redmond, who plays country music. And he had a whole bunch of country guys come in. And myself, I was the token rock drummer, right? So these guys got up and they were asked, what's it like when you go into the studio? Well, they said like, when they go in like with Justin Aldean or something like that, or a country artist that's big, the country artists, they play a demo that sounds like a complete record already. And they tell the musicians, I want you to copy this note for note, and we're going to record it just to make it sound better, right? Okay. Then they asked me, what's it like when you go in the studio? I said, well, the guy that I work with might have a song. He might have a song. He'll have bits and pieces of little songs. And it's up to us. We put it together, all together. You know, so, as a group.
Back in the day, if Billy Joel says, look, we're working on a new project here, he would come in with the songs. How did the melodies and everything come together? It was usually melodies first, lyrics next.
No. This is how he wrote. He would come in with a little piece of something, you know?
Yeah.
Like he had just a thing that just went like this, and he would just hum it. Dum bum 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 bum, really fast. Dun 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 dun. We ended up with no song, right? And then it went. Then the next part of the song was dun 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 dun. Right?
Yeah.
So he comes into the studio, and it's like, I got this idea. And then we're like, how about that part you have? Remember that little bit and piece you have that goes, and it pieced together like a song like Uptown Girl comes together. A lot of those songs came together like that.
Yeah, he's just hearing, it's like earworm. They call that earworm. You're getting pieces of melodies in your head, and then lyrics come after that.
He had a cassette player, and the cassette that it was in the cassette player all the time were all his little bits and pieces. Like he used to play this one thing at home. It went like this. Bum, 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 bum. Da, 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 real fast. Dun, 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 right?
Yeah.
I said, at the end of Leningrad, and until we came to Leningrad, and he stopped. I said, Billy, you know the thing you play really fast? What if we play it really slow now? It sounded like it came from Russia, you know?
From Russia, right.
Yeah. So
grand feeling, yeah.
So it was really important to remember the bits and pieces that he had.
And that's really, how tough is that to convert that into, hey, let's make this into a song? You figure it out from there. It's like, okay, you're on. Go do the drums now. It's like,
yeah, right. It's like, okay, this is going to sound good. So he would come in sometimes with a little bit of piece, and he'd run it by the band. And if it swung with the band, he would go home and now finish the song, get the words together and everything. Yeah.
What was it like though with Innocent Man? This is the early 80s, new waves going on, all like that. And he's wanting to do, stuff from the 50s, early 60s. Buck the trend, and the thing sold phenomenally well. You guys recorded it pretty fast, like within 2 weeks.
Yeah. He turned to me at one point when we recorded it and we were done doing the basic tracks. He goes, "This is going to be a bomb. It was too much fun to make."
It's weird how that happens in life. It's, you think, oh, I'm doing this so fast, nobody's going to care about this thing. The previous record, Nylon Curtain, which he poured his heart out into his Sgt. Pepper's, as he's called that. It's
took a year to rank that one. A year.
And the recording itself, I think that is digitally recorded. It's one of the earliest ones that was like totally digital, from what I see in the liner notes here.
Yeah.
With, 1982, that was like way ahead of its time.
Right. Yeah, but that took a long time. But also because Nylon Curtain took a long time because they were getting ready to knock down A&R, where we had done The Stranger, 52nd Street, Glass Houses. All those records were done at A&R, and that was Phil's home. And they sold the building, and they were going to destroy the studio and everything. So we were searching for new studios during the Nylon Curtain time.
It's phenomenal. Still sounds fresh. A lot of that stands the test of time. I would say the most dated out of the catalog might be probably The Bridge, because he was trying to be so trendy at that time.
Yeah.
A lot of keyboards. Steve Winwood is still amazing on that. Do you remember Steve Winwood coming into the sessions?
I sure do. I've always been a fan of Steve Winwood. As you read in the book, when I first saw Billy, he did a Winwood song, a Traffic song, where he was singing Colored Rain. I was 17 and he was 18 years old. And I thought to myself, wow, this guy's really good. And he's singing a song that I love. And so when Winwood came in, now I had studied Traffic for the longest time. I knew every lick. And Winwood actually told Billy, wow, I thought Jim Capaldi was playing drums when we were fooling around playing Traffic songs. That's how close I got, to doing that stuff.
Oh, Dear Mr. Fantasy. Oh, gosh.
Yeah, great record. Great record.
In your head. It's just amazing. And also Cyndi Lauper getting involved. The only co-writing credits he's had in the entire catalog.
Yeah, she was amazing. I mean, I remember meeting her the first time. She did a song for the Goonies movie track. Flip side was called What a Thrill. It's in the background of the movie. You can hear it in the background. And I came in and did the drums on that. And what a great lady. What a great lady. I mean, the lyric that she wrote, that's deep. It's really deep. Code of Silence.
Yeah, it's very catchy. And I thought that would be the A-side. It was actually a B-side to one of the singles.
Yeah. Well, what a great song that is. I love that one.
Yeah, and then even going back to her catalog, True Colors is just that's like an anthem. That's what it's become. So after The Bridge, y'all went to the Soviet Union. Yeah, that must have been, I have Russian roots too. I always wanted to go back and stuff, but these days, I don't know, it's a little bit dicey over there. I just, hearing how he made the connection with the Russian people through the music. And these people were smuggling Beatles records in when they were young. And
Robert, I saw them in the woods. They would meet in the woods, probably about 20 of them. They all had boom boxes, right? One guy had a tape, Beatle tape. He'd put it in. The other 19 people would press record. He would press play, and that's how they transferred the music to each other, like that. Or they could get a record that was actually recorded on old X-rays. They could record on that.
Wow.
It was amazing to see. It was like stepping back in time.
You were there, yeah, definitely. Before the collapse, all that. That was a groundbreaker.
Yeah.
The documentary is amazing. You're in that documentary about it. They explain why Billy wanted to go over there and do that. Few artists before him have ever done that. It was
Right.
just what a nice story.
You know, it was amazing too. It's like I think I mentioned it in the book about that. I went all American when I went there. You know, I had an American flag on my shirt. I had the American pins. Mickey Mouse was hanging off my jacket. And, everything American. Flags on my riser, on my drum cage and everything. And Billy actually asked me to tone it down at one point. Could you please tone it down? And I said, no. You know, so he was afraid that they were going to see this ugly American saying, boasting that I'm an American and you're not, you know. But the guy who was the translator for Billy on stage, Oleg, when we did the 25-year anniversary video, he was interviewed right after me. So in between my interview and his interview, he heard me say that about my clothes. And he said to me, he said, look, when they saw you up there and your arms just going all over the place and just feeling free, he said, when they saw that flag on your chest, it just represented freedom to them. You know, it's like, okay, I'll take that.
It was phenomenal to see you hit the opening notes of Angry Young Man. And they're just like sitting there. And then it took a bit for them to really loosen up. And what a powerful song.
Yeah, and that was pretty brave of Billy to do that, you know, the mosh pit thing, you know, where they carried him on you know?
Yeah.
I mean, that completed the bridge to me.
I remember, getting that. This goes back, I was in college when this came out. And you do see in here, I had you sign this when we met years ago.
That's really funny.
But yeah, I like how, you know, here you are with the
shirt.
USA shirt. Yeah.
Yep.
But going back to Turnstiles, that's an interesting story, how Turnstiles, the record before The Stranger, has Say Goodbye to Hollywood, the single on there. And I didn't know that until you wrote in there he was yelling your name out towards the end of it.
Did you listen to it?
Yeah, I was like, all the years I've heard this song, I'm in the car, I'm pumping up, like, I couldn't even understand. I thought he was saying, hey, Bobby, or hey, something like, you know, at the end there. I didn't know. I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
He's saying, hey, DeVitto, where are you going?
I just gotten up to go to the bathroom or something.
What a great story. And also with Turnstiles, though, it was like trying to find the right producer. He ended up co-producing it or produced it himself.
Yes. Yeah, he ended up producing it. You know, and Brian Ruggles was an advisor, you know, because he wasn't in the union, so he couldn't be put on the album as a musician or something like that. You know, you had to be in the union to get on the album because it was Columbia Records and they were tied in with the musicians union. So, Billy produced it himself. And I don't think Columbia Records was happy with that idea because they had Jim Guercio producing it before, you know. So I don't think they got behind it like they should have gotten behind it because Turnstiles has great songs on it. I mean, every time we played live, even with the Lords, we're Turnstiles heavy. You know, Miami 2017, Man, I've loved these days. You know, so many. I'm a Highland Falls. It's a great song, you know.
The early catalog is really good. I tell people, you know, people who like, you know how it is. It's like, here's a very successful solo performer, one of the biggest selling solo artists of all time. Right. And people get jealous of success. Oh, it's Billy Joel and all that. It's like the early catalog, you know, starting 1971 through 76.
Yeah.
Great songs, really good stuff. Wasn't produced to the satisfaction of Billy himself or anybody else of the record company.
On the Songs in the Attic record, we got to play, you know, Everybody Loves You Now. That's way before me, but we got to play it, and it was what a great tune. You know, She's Got Away, a great song, you know, and the early stuff. I love Los Angelinos.
You play it so beautifully on there. Oh, it's way better than the original version. It's the passion you have, and it's not just a kiss butt or anything. I remember seeing you for the first time. I was for my 17th birthday. I went to see you at the Coliseum in Richfield, Ohio, and you stood out. And he introduced you. It's like you don't remember the band members' names, but You really stood out, and the way you pounded with the passion,
Right.
it just that left an impression. Only other drummer you really paid attention to, maybe Neil Peart, maybe
Right.
Ringo, Phil Collins, but you really stood out and really a very big part of the catalog. But Songs in the Attic, was it originally going to be that, or was that going to be like a double album? Because they recorded everything on the Glass Houses tour. Was Phil thinking of just, doing the rarities, or how did that come about?
It's funny. I just emailed Billy and said, I'm sure there's a lot of Songs in the Attic still around. Maybe you can put out another album. But yeah, we recorded everything. We were going from clubs to arenas, to get different sounds. And of course, in an arena, I Love These Days sounded better than in a club because it had the ambience and all that kind of stuff. Where, the rock songs, you may be right, and stuff like that were better in a club. So, they had to pick and choose. And there was a lot of stuff recorded there. Yeah, I think there could be another one.
Yeah.
It might have been a double album, but I think they kept it as a single. I don't know why. But.
Yeah, since Billy owes them so much more, then what comes out are a lot of compilations. So he calls this one the Scraps, My Life's compilation, which it's nice, but it's not like cohesive.
No.
They could keep releasing, this previously unreleased material and
right.
make new singles out of those. But
She's
Got Away was a good idea to do.
What was cool that they released was Carnegie Hall. That was cool because you can hear Scenes from an Italian Restaurant before we recorded it with Phil. We had met Phil. He came to see us play at Carnegie Hall. That's where we met him. So we were already doing Scenes and Just the Way You Are. So you can hear what Phil actually had done if you play the Carnegie Hall version and then you play the record.
Just the Way You Are. He wasn't expecting that to be even on The Stranger. It was Phoebe Snow who talked him into putting it on there, and then one of his biggest hit singles.
Yeah, huge.
He's like, I know I'm a rocker, but here's the schmaltzy thing. But wow, it's brought in an audience.
It really did. Like Richie Canada says every night when we play it. Yeah, my kids' teeth were fixed with this song.
But another big single you were on, My Life, which you kind of like avoided for a while. When you see the gold record, though, that all changes.
Yeah, it all changed when I saw that. And I was like, I'm not crazy about that song. I don't know why. It just, it's okay.
I think it's so much that it's overplayed. It's good, but it's so overplayed. It's great to hear in concert, but God, anywhere you go, the dentist's office, there's My Life. It's chasing you everywhere.
Everywhere. Yeah.
Most interesting thing is that it would usually be the second song in, and then people around me be getting high. I'm like, why are you getting high to My Life?
That's funny. That's funny.
This is Billy's top 40 artists. I mean, Pink Floyd, I get.
Right. That's funny. That's really funny.
But aside from Billy, you worked with Sir Paul McCartney. What was that experience like with Phil Ramone was involved with those sessions?
Yeah. David Brown was in on that. Dave LeBolt, who came to Russia with us, the keyboard player, he was in on that too. How was that? You're talking to the biggest Beatle fan in the world, and all of a sudden I'm standing in front of Paul McCartney.
It's like, this is somebody who I had idolized. I finally made it here.
Are you kidding me? This is insane. Talk about the road to get to somewhere. It's like, I didn't even remember being on that road that got me there. It was insane. I mean, the best part was in between we did 2 songs. And in between those songs, we kind of jammed out. And Paul was playing piano on the sessions. So he was doing Little Richard, and he was doing, Jerry Lee Lewis and all that kind of stuff. It was insane watching him do that stuff. It was so great.
It just seemed he makes it look so easy. I've seen him in concert 3 times, and it's like doesn't look like he's working very hard at all, and it's just beautiful what comes out. Oh, God, maybe I'm amazed, and the huge hit songs, "Band on the Run," and going back to the Beatles classics. It's just it had to be an amazing experience growing up. I'm sure you remember when all the Beatles records were coming out.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, had them all. Had to have them all the records. It's funny. Somebody asked me, like, who would you like to interview if you could? What musician would you like to be with, whether dead or alive? Who would you like to sit with for a little while and just talk to them? And I said, I'd like to sit with John Lennon, because I would like to sit with him and be there in the room the first time he heard like Jet or something like that. Would he have laughed?
Because he was on the other end of the spectrum. You had something like the Imagine Project come out.
Yes.
And here's his writing partner, taking off with phenomenal hit singles.
With pop hits, like just one after another. Someone's knocking at the door.
Like, where do you come
as John singing, imagine there's no heaven. Oh my God.
How do you compare those two? One's so organic, so tuned into the political scene, and the other one's, happy-go-lucky and making all the money. I remember, I think you guys did cover Lennon back in the day, like 76, 77. I think on some record, I think Billy was covering that song.
Yeah, we did I Got Every Reason on Earth to Be Mad. I'll Cry Instead. That's the song. Cry Instead.
Oh, I love that cover. Yeah,
we did that. It was the flip side of Big single.
I love your drums on Easy Money, how that starts off the whole album. It gives it so much of power. It's like you captured the Rodney Dangerfield persona. Great movie too, that the song is.
Yeah. The first time I heard it, the playback of that, I was in a movie theater and I went to see the movie and I forgot that we did it. And I just heard, bop, 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 bop. It was like, whoa.
Yeah. That was
exciting. That was an exciting moment,
Gosh. So you went in to do Glass Houses. This was going to be like, I'm doing pure rock and roll. We're going to hit the big arenas. Were you getting really ramped up and excited, like Phil's involved with this? I love the use of sound effects too. Some critics, the critics were getting to Billy in those days too. But the sound of the glass breaking and just sets the whole tone for what became phenomenal for 1980, 81, that tour.
Yeah, well, I think that was Billy's punk album, because I remember being in France and seeing the Police. I went to see the Police when they were just breaking out, and I told Billy about it. I said, "You got to see this band, the Police. Oh my God, they're phenomenal!" And he listened, and I think it was time, like we were talking about in the beginning, why Billy did the things he had to do. Well, one of the things was he had to follow the leaders at that time, because punk was, taking off. Anybody that stayed in the 52nd Street mood fell behind, So Billy had the right band to do the punk thing too. I mean, we could play basically anything. So other albums like when we did Glass Houses, he said, I just want us to play in the studio and we'll just be able to duplicate it live. Just play what you would play live. Where in Nylon Curtain, he said to us, he says, I don't even want you to think about how you're going to duplicate this live. Whatever the song needs, that's what we're going to put on it. So it was more complicated than Glass Houses was.
I love that, and that's what kept him so relevant, is he was able to change and go from 52nd Street, all this jazz. If you listen to Zanzibar, really, really jazzy. You go to a big arena, rocker record, punk record, Glass Houses, and then back to a very involved technical record like Nylon Curtain. It's just like he's so good at it changing and evolving.
Right. Well, there's always one song that keeps the fan there, like 52nd Street, of course, had My Life. Then Glass Houses, You May Be Right, and Still Rock and Roll of Me. It was like, and then Nylon Curtain has Allentown on it, It's like, and Pressure,
Yeah, and he wanted to get more current events in there at that time.
Right.
And tapped into it when a lot of people weren't really even doing that at that moment.
Right. That's the only time he got political with writing songs, you know.
Yeah,
That and the Downeaster lecture is pretty political about the fishermen and all that, you know, the strain, the tug between them and the government and the laws of the sea and everything.
sure. I bet you could probably pretty much relate to that. You grew up in the same area
Yeah.
of New York,
Sure. Long Island. Yeah.
Long Island. You had some rivalries there too, growing up, and where you were in Seaford, and you had
Yeah.
the Wichita, and it just these. It's so funny because a lot of us can relate to that growing up and having a rival neighborhood nearby, the rival high school.
Yeah.
You tap into that.
Well, that's a great thing about the book is that you can take this book and just put your name where I say, I did this, I did that. And you did the same things. You know, I had a guy write me and sent me a text. He goes, this book is so great. I can't believe it. I'm up to dirt bomb fights and porn magazines. I feel like I'm reliving my youth.
Yeah, a lot of us can really connect with that. You don't I didn't realize it at the time, but it's like, yeah, I mean, I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio. Very same idea, row houses,
Right.
high schools, neighborhoods, you had the punks and, the mean people, the nice, all that stuff. So, I think that's always translated in this music and why he becomes so phenomenal.
Sure. We grew up in blue collar families. Billy really wrote blue collar lyrics. And we were a blue collar band that blue collar people loved. They can relate to us. Billy came out and wore a tie loose and an ugly jacket and did the boxing things. It was like he was Rocky all of a sudden, the musical Rocky. I mean, we went to Australia when Rocky, the movie, came out, and the girls went nuts because, he had that bug eyes and all that stuff.
Never seen eyes that, but yeah, it's just amazing. And hands, like I probably have more piano hands, but I saw him up close. Those fingers, it's like, how does he play these little keys with these big hands?
Yeah, he's amazing to watch. Between him and Elton, they both have these amazing hands. It was a treat to play with both of them at the same time.
What was that face-to-face tour? Yeah, that had to be. I think you guys did rehearse down here in Atlanta. I think Dave Rosenthal told me this.
We did.
Spoke with him.
Yeah. We did. Yeah.
It was at the old Georgia Dome, which they imploded years ago. And
that was the first tour. The rehearsal was done at the Georgia Dome. Yep.
I remember seeing that, and I was like thinking this would always be great if these two would get together and play, and they did. And they did it, what, 3 tours?
Oh, but I did it for 10 years, just me, and I think he did it again after I left with Elton,
It's great seeing them take each other's parts, take each other's songs and do that. It was an incredible experience to see that and see other people. I
always felt that, people would say, what was the difference between you and Elton and, the two bands? And I always said that Elton and his band were better musicians than we were, but we were better entertainers than Elton's band was. They just stood there in the suits and, but we rocked it out. Because a lot of people were like, after they saw Elton play, they were like, well, we got a little nervous, how's Billy going to, top this or equal it? And it's like, yeah, it was easy.
Yeah. I'm sure they were compared to quite a bit. Here's the piano player from the UK. Here's the piano player from the US. And I'm sure that was kind of a struggle too. But they really did always respect each other despite the personal differences.
Yeah. Yep, they did. They really did.
Well, we always have these things in our lives. It's like, and it's your story is just incredible how you overcome a lot of these odds. And whether it was in your childhood growing up, you have a great chapter on your brother, and all these things. It's a part of who we are. We don't get out of this alive either, as the book goes. And it's a very inspiring story. And where do you think you get that strength from? Is that the roots from your grandparents, your ancestors? I feel like we could get these work ethics from our families, and we channel that.
Yeah, we do. My mother always told me. Now you got to remember, my parents, they grew up. My dad was in World War II, and my mom grew up, and she was very poor. You know, Italian family comes over from Sicily. My mom's born here in America, but the family's very poor. But my mother always told me that you always have to have a sense of humor, no matter what you're going through. You've got to find something that you can laugh about. She said, I feel sorry for people that don't have a sense of humor. I don't know how they get through life, you know, and I got to agree with her. I think, I think you find something funny in everything. I mean,
Yeah, I was in an area where I grew up in Cleveland. It was a lot of, half Jewish, half Italian.
right.
I always joked that it was a loud school I went because we always talk with our hands and all. And you have this with Billy, just that upbringing. And I know, he had a hard scrabble roots too with his dad leaving.
Yeah,
and
sure.
He took up boxing, got into motorcycle, these kind of things. It like contradicts itself. Boxing and playing the piano. It's like, I'm sure that had to make his mother quite nervous.
Yeah, everything that would destroy what he became, he did. Yeah.
I think it's really interesting. He's a really, really smart person. I don't think he likes to talk too much about that, but he's very well read.
Very well. I mean, he used to read all the time when we were on the road. As a matter of fact, if he didn't have a book in his hand, back when everybody was smoking, he would read on the matchbook cover. He would just read everything that's on the matchbook cover.
Yeah.
I once told him, I said, put that thing down and talk to me, always reading, always reading. He would have, if he had 3 bathrooms in his house, he would have different books in each bathroom and he would decide which one to go to and just to catch up on the book that he was reading,
It's really impressive. And somebody who didn't finish high school wanted to go to Columbia Records instead of university. I'm always taken aback by that. It's something I don't think he likes to advertise very much, but
no,
speaks in the music. I mean, that's what makes such a great songwriter.
Yeah, I mean, a friend of mine once said, Billy Joel can say in 3 minutes what it takes us a lifetime to say. I mean, that's amazing to me. Like the Beatles did that, and it's just crazy that they can do that.
That's a real gift, and to have to be able to translate your thoughts into such a short amount of time, just really incredible. You go a little bit into River of Dreams. Now that was a different experience. That was produced by Danny Korchmar, who also produced James Taylor and people like that.
Right.
Who were those Shelter Island sessions like?
The Shelter Island sessions were pretty cool. I mean, that's where you really saw the pressure of Billy, because he didn't want to go to the city. He was living out in East Hampton at the time, Amagansett at the time, and he wanted to go home every night, because he was with Christy Brinkley and he had the little daughter Alexa, and he wanted to go home all the time. So he ends up building a studio in a boathouse, because Shelter Island, nobody's going to go there in the wintertime. It's a summertime place. So we would have to drive out to the end of Long Island, get on a ferry and go to Shelter Island, then find the studio and record these songs that he had. It was insane because the songs were coming out really good, but there was nobody in the booth listening, and no producer. He was producing them.
Yeah.
So there was nobody listening and going, that's really close. Do it one more time and I know you got it. But we there's a tape of I think I did like 8 songs that eventually got on River of Dreams. I did the 8 of those songs. And when Danny played the songs for the band that actually plays on River of Dreams, he played them the song, and the band would go, what's wrong with that? And Danny would get all upset, like, I don't want it. I want it different, The only one I got on was Shades of Grey. That's the I put on that one. Yeah.
And it was with this DVD set from the My Lives set here, where I think it was recorded in Germany. And by that time, you had a way different band. Mark Rivera had already been with you guys for a while on saxophone. But Crystal Taliaferro had joined the band. which gave it this extra sound and more of a wide sound.
Yeah, like I say in the book, I think Crystal's audition to be in the band was what she played on "We Didn't Start the Fire," the conga drum part.
You came down here. It was the Stormfront tour, I remember very well, and you had an Atlanta story. I remember seeing you guys at that show as well. Very hot summer. That was in 1990.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was.
I remember Billy not taking to the heat too well at that show. I remember him talking about that.
Yeah. Yeah. In Philly, it was hot that summer. Yeah, it was really hot that summer. Woo.
You have some good stories there with stuff places where I lived in Cleveland, Atlanta, and near Athens, Ohio, where you had a little run in. That's where I went to school.
The University of Miami is there, right?
Near Ohio University.
Yeah.
Miami University is near Oxford, which is closer to Cincinnati.
Oh, okay.
But yeah. Oh, I'm sure there are lots of stories on the road. That's especially in the early years. I had the pleasure to meet Jeff Schock, who.
Yeah, Jeffrey.
What a great guy.
Yeah. Yeah, he's the one that came with me when the police took me away.
I really wish he could have written a book too, because I'm sure he had plenty of his own stories.
Yeah, he definitely did. He was with us for a while, and then he worked in the office. Yeah. So yeah, a lot of stories.
Yeah, when I did, I was backstage 3 years ago when he came here, and Billy came here, and I just noticed such a family-like atmosphere. There's a lot of camaraderie. He seems to be very loyal to a lot of people who've been working with him for years.
Yeah, the crew guys, yeah.
Brian Ruggles and
Steve Cohen. Yeah.
Incredible people, yeah. Well, it has been a wonderful discussion. The new book, which is now available like everywhere. I got this through Hudson Music.
Yeah, you can get it on Amazon. Yeah, it's on Kindle, Amazon.com. Yeah.
And it's nice. It must have been fun to sign this.
You did get it early, didn't you?
Your hand getting a little...
2,000 of them. I signed like that.
Well, it has been a pleasure. Thank you for your time. Liberty DeVitto, drummer for Billy Joel and many other people. You work with a whole host of legends, and it's been fantastic. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Robert. It's been great.